Francesco, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First of all, let me thank, on behalf also of Alfons, that we'll do for sure afterwards, Francesco for having organized a so outstanding meeting. And personally, as a Neapolitan, I am so happy that he has chosen this fantastic location. Sometimes as Neapolitans we feel a bit embarrassed for what is happening in this beautiful city, but sometimes being in a location like this, we feel proud to belong to a city that is so rich of masterpieces that are really unique in the world. So thank you very much, Francesco, for having organized. Thank you to Maurizio Maddaloni and Emanuele Grimaldi and Francesco as well for having opened the meeting so clearly and so completely, so making much more easy the work to the chairman of the first session. Together with Alfons, we will try to make a bit lively this session. We have to apologize because Patrick Verhoeven and also the chairman of Fincantieri will arrive a bit late because they are both, I think, on the same train. We can move a bit the presentations. Unfortunately, time is always short, and so we have to try to keep the presentation within about 10 minutes. Therefore, I don't take any more time. I leave the floor to Alfons for some opening remarks, and then back to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugo. Good morning to all of you. Subscribe, support, all the thanks you have given to the organizers and to Manuel. I'm pleased that both Manuel and Francesco have already been setting the scene, so I don't have to add much to it. But looking at the title, where is shipping going, efficiency and innovation, I'm thinking of environment, but I'm also thinking of economic factors. On environment, we heard, of course, that shipping is the best performer. Best example is CO2. Shipping only produces 3% of global CO2, notwithstanding the fact that 90% of global trade is going by sea. So on CO2, shipping is a solution and not the problem compared to other transport modes. That's why we also are still involved in promoting short sea shipping. I believe Manuel Grimaldi is the best example of the promotion of short sea shipping. And now some buzzwords: SOx, sulfur, NOx, nitrogen oxide, and so on. So many issues are on the agenda. Manuel made reference to ballast water as well. So the question is, what can innovation do here? Now, having been involved in the sulfur file, for instance, for a few years, since 2008, when the IMO decided to go overall down from 4.5% to 0.5 in 2020 or 2025, with one decision on which no impact assessment was made, 0.1% in the SECAS as from 2015. One could wonder, how can we solve this? How can we accommodate this? Now, many issues are on the agenda. Scrubbers, LNG, some are thinking of methanol. Is it possible, technically, by 2015? And second, and Manuel Grimaldi made already reference to it, who is going to finance this? Who is going to finance these banks for debt-laden ships? Question. Good stuff for discussion. Now, having said this, the industry is not sitting back and doing nothing. For reasons, economic reasons, measures are taken by all to reduce energy consumption, structure of the ship, coatings, paintings, propellers, slough steaming, and what I have seen recently in many companies is an overall culture of energy saving. And that's quite important, I would have thought. Now, innovation is not limited just to the environment. It is also heavily influencing the full logistic supply chain. Of course, logistics is in the first instance a company issue, but efficiency for the lawmakers should also mean that there should be more efficiency in the nodal points. And I'm thinking of ports and port services. I'm thinking of hinterland connections. I'm thinking of communication from seafarers with ashore, transmission of data, the so-called e-maritime, and abolition of red tape all over. So far, my brief scene setting. Are you introducing the first speaker, or do I do it, Hugo?
Alfons, if you let me, I have just a few comments to do in addition before we start. I was following what Alfons has said, and it is a general view and a very important view of how the new developments will affect ships. Let me concentrate on one point that is, I think, one of the most sensitive in today's market, which is efficiency of ships. We are assisting to a development of new generation of ships, at least in terms of fuel consumption, where there is much more care about this. But how this will impact on the market, because we are going to speak about two different types of ships, very modern ships designed up to, let's say, 2008 and delivered in 2000, let's say, up to 2011, and vessels designed now. Just to give you a feeling, 2007-2011 has seen deliveries of about 16,000 vessels for about 400 million GT. Absolute numbers mean always not much, but this means 39% of the world fleet in terms of GT. So these vessels, which have been designed in accordance to the maximum capacity of transport and not in accordance to the maximum efficiency, are a huge number and represent 39% of the fleet with an age which is relatively young. These ships will have to be taken carefully into account to be improved in order to continue to be competitive with the new generation of ships that is coming out, where to act both on operational aspects and in general on technical aspects to improve fuel consumption. When we speak about fuel consumption, what does it mean? Manuel Grimaldi has already underlined is the biggest cost for a shipping company. If you take the various types of vessels, of course, the incidence of fuel consumption is different on each type of ship. But if we try to take two important parameters, one is fuel consumption and one is financial cost, let's say interests to be paid for a loan. If we take a basic vessel like a bulker, let's say that fuel consumption is at least 3 times of interest paid. But if you go on more sophisticated ships like the one that Manuel Grimaldi has built, but also ships like the 3E type, the large container ships, these costs can go up to 8 to 10 times the cost of interest. So this is a fundamental item to be taken into account by owners in order to be competitive in the future. What we need in order to improve the existing ships, most probably we'll hear a lot today, but in general we need reliable information on the ships, which means reliable information not only on the technical side of ships, but also on the trade type, on the routes, on the sea and wind condition that most likely this ship will go to meet and will encounter during its trading life. If we take I was speaking about a new generation of ships and more efficient ships. We have seen what are the savings expected on standard ships like bulkers or tankers, especially of mid-size, where we see improvements that most probably will reach about 20% of savings. But if we go on again on more sophisticated ships, we see that we can get a reduction of the cost for ton-mile of cargo, which is what is really important, through the best design of the ships to more efficiency, that can go up to 50%. And we had some example of this speaking with many owners, and Manuel is one of those. So we are speaking about big savings, and we are speaking about a market that will see operating relatively young vessels and young vessels with completely different performances. So this is a point that is very important. The last point that I want to underline, and it is very much linked to what Alfons is saying, which type of fuel we are going to use in order to comply with the new regulations coming. One alternative seems to be LNG. Of course, the problem is not technical, definitely, because we are already in position to have vessels fueled with LNG and operated with LNG. We have some problems with the rules to be applied to use LNG as a fuel, because they are not yet existing, but this is something that can be overcome. We have some problems with logistics, because this is extremely important. We have not bunkering points, sufficient bunkering points for LNG fueled vessels. But one of the very important, the most important point is, will these vessels will be competitive? And this is something that we cannot say today, because it's depending on the fluctuation of price of oil, of price of the fuels, and price of LNG. Just to give you an idea, price of LNG is not a fixed thing around the world in this moment. If you take in US, LNG cost is $3 per MTBU. If you go on the other side of the world, and you go in Asia, and you go in Japan, this will cost about $18 or $16 per MTBU. In Europe, is about, the average is about $12. So still, it depends on the cost of LNG, the cost of the fuel that the refineries will be able to deliver to us, especially with low sulfur content, and of course the creation of a suitable logistics. So it is a viable opportunity. It is the most clean fuel, but we will see how it will develop in the future. So these are my opening remarks. Alfons, if you are okay, I think we start with the first speaker. I leave the